Stephen, my name is Orange Reed, and we'll be over till 6:45. Our main list tonight is why is Russia doing so much things to Ukraine? Well, we got the answer for you. We do have the answer for you. But our main list for this evening is by the was at a Kelly Tower in KYI3 as Russia wants to offensive strike of Ukraine or the capital. Here is the latest.
The Russians warned this afternoon communication hubs in Kiev city centre are now to be targeted. Within 2 hours, this was an attack on one of the city's TV towers. Seen from another angle as the second missile hits. Until now, central Kiev had been largely spared. As in Kharkiv, though, there has clearly been a change of policy. Yesterday's missile strike on an apartment block and the apparent use of cluster munitions seen in this attack led the Ukrainian President Zelensky to use a speech to the European Parliament to accuse Russia of war crimes.
Yesterday, 16 children were killed. Again and again, President Putin is going to say that is some kind of operation and we are hitting a military infrastructure. Where are our children? What kind of military factories do they work at?
The official translator struggled to keep the tears out of his voice.
We are fighting just for our land and for our freedom.
The response from those listening, a standing ovation. The contrast for Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov could hardly have been clearer. As he spoke by video linked to a European human rights conference, most of his audience simply walked out. In the suburbs of Kiev lies the evidence of fierce ongoing battles, the carcasses of military columns still lining many roads. There's no way of keeping count, but both sides have suffered horrible losses. This video has emerged from the first day of fighting. Ukrainian soldiers using handheld anti-aircraft weapons against helicopters. Fatally underestimating their enemy, one of the helicopters is hit.
Yes! Yes!
And is then seen to crash in flames into the Dnieper River. Whether the huge convoy seen in satellite photos snaking its way towards Kiev is making the same mistake may become clear in the next few days. There is no sign yet of a resumption of yesterday's peace talks, though one hopeful sign is that China is now backing a ceasefire. Having appeared to support Moscow originally, it's now hoped they may put some pressure on President Putin. James Mates, ITV News, Kiev.
Yeah, that is just heartbreaking. It's just very heartbreaking. You see the tower of the Kelly Tower in Ukraine as just be ruined. Alright, if you upset about what I show you tonight, go to iTunes.com/news. Alright, our news now is a question Sweet fights in Ukraine as second largest Oh my god, I'm reading the sorry. I was reading the wrong thing, okay. Stay focused. Alright. Are you not in KYI3 because you are afraid of Ukraine? Here is
6 days into a European war.
Here is the latest.
6 days into a European war, and the Prime Minister set foot in Poland, Ukraine's neighbour and a country living in the shadow of Russia.
How are you? I'm very well. How are you?
So how are you?
Message to Poland. They're in the front line. They've got to cope with huge numbers of refugees already coming into to Poland. So I'll be talking to Prime Minister Morawiecki about what we're going to do to help.
It's only a few hours' drive to the Ukrainian border from the streets of Poland's capital, and this country has already taken in 500,000 Ukrainians who've fled. The Prime Minister made a commitment that Britain too will be taking in more Ukrainian refugees.
So what we're going to do is we're extending the family
scheme, so that actually very considerable numbers would be eligible. As I set out earlier, you could be talking about a couple of 100,000.
But it was the words of one Ukrainian journalist who had fled, leaving behind her loved ones, that took center stage.
Ukrainian people are desperately asking for the West to protect our sky. We are asking for the no-fly zone. So you're coming to Poland. You're not coming to Kyiv, Prime Minister. You're not coming to Lviv. Because you are afraid. Because NATO is not willing to defend. I see that my family members, that my team members are saying that we are crying. We don't have where to run.
Acutely conscious that there is not enough that we can do as the UK government to help in the way that you want. And the UK would be engaged in shooting down Russian planes, would be engaged in direct combat with Russia. That's not something that we can do. And
the Prime Minister told me he understood the question Daria Kilyanuk had so passionately asked was essential, but Britain could not go to war with Russia.
What do you make of that young woman, Daria, when she was asking you about NATO actually grasping the nettle and realizing that we have to sort of commit, forces in order to stop him because they can't?
And I sympathise so much with what she said, and in a way I was grateful that she was able to escalate that issue in the way that she did, because that is in many ways, for many people, that is the unspoken question. Why not just engage militarily? But that's not something that any NATO member is thinking of doing.
This evening, the Prime Minister visited British troops and armour that's been deployed to NATO ally Estonia. These soldiers of the Royal Welsh Regiment are here to safeguard Estonia's independence. Ragiomar Tapa Base, Estonia.
Yes, but heartbreaking as Botoxon. You see that Botoxon is saying, you're not in Ukraine, but are you afraid? More that on ITV.com/news. Alright. So let's say, what's Pancake Day? Oh, my favourite day of the year. Lots of you are saying pancakes, so what are your comments? Maddie says, Pancake Day is the best day ever, but it's not about pancakes, it's about having love. Oh man, that is very nice. Alright, if you want to see all the comments about Pancake Days, go to iTVnews.com/news. Alright, peace sales to friends. It wasn't patient. Here is the latest.
It might be 1,500 miles from Kyiv, but in Southend-on-Sea today, the plight of the people of the Ukrainian capital and across the whole country was clearly on Prince Charles's mind. He was in Essex to confer city status on Southend, granted by the Queen after the killing of its MP Sir David Amess last year. The killing, he said, was an attack on democracy. But the Prince then turned to President Putin's invasion.
We are seeing those same values under attack today in Ukraine in the most unconscionable way. In the stand we take here, we are in solidarity with all those who are resisting brutal aggression.
Prince Charles met Vladimir Putin on a state visit to Britain in 2003, then just a relatively new president of Russia. But he is a politician, it seems, the heir to the throne has never taken to. In 2014, on a trip to Canada, shortly after Putin invaded Crimea, the Prince apparently said, "And now Putin is doing just about the same as Hitler." It made sensational headlines at the time, but looks much less sensational after the events of the past week. William and Kate, meanwhile, were in Wales today, St David's Day. They voiced their support for the people of Ukraine at the weekend. The Duke and Duchess met Volodymyr Zelensky in 2020, and today he responded to their message in a tweet. He and his wife, he said, are grateful to the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge that at this crucial time they stand by our country. Members of the royal family are duty-bound to be politically impartial and ordinarily go to great lengths not to criticise any country or any leader. But these are not ordinary times, and even though the royals can't always say what they want, they can also see right from wrong. Chris Ship, News at 10.
Yes, and if you want to know all about the royal latest, go to ivorynews.com/news. Alright, that's it from me. I'm back tomorrow at the early time, 6 o'clock. Yes, tomorrow, back tomorrow at 6 o'clock, the earliest time. But from everyone here, good night.